Kyler Murray's rookie scale contract is starting to dwindle. What would be better for the Cardinals, for the Rams to make the Super Bowl, or the 49ers? And Chase Edmonds or Christian Kirk? Pick one, let one walk. Alex Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked on Cardinals. Let's go!
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right. Alex Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked on Cardinals. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow the podcast at Locked on AC Cards. Please like, subscribe, everything on our YouTube channel. Just search Locked on Cardinals or Locked on Arizona Cardinals. We're inching closer to 2,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody who makes Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. Free and available on all platforms on the Locked on Podcast Network. We've got a jam-packed show. You think the content's going to wane because the season's over? No, sirree, Bob. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. Kyle Odegaard, formerly a writer for azcardinals.com, put out an interesting list on Twitter of players who were on the rookie scale contract that made the Super Bowl. And guess what? Kyler Murray ain't one of them. Is Cliff Kingsbury the reason? We'll talk about it. Number 2, Rams or 49ers NFC Championship game. I know we're about 72 hours away from there. What would be better for the Cardinals if the Rams were to make it or if the 49ers were to make it? And Chase Edmonds or Christian Kirk? If you have to pick one to resign and pick one to let walk, who is it going to be on either side? We're going to tackle all that today at Locked on Cardinals. Bo, there's a list. I'm just going to pop this out. Kyle Odegaard, great follow on Twitter. Again, used to write for the Cardinals organization, for the website, and now has gone on to bigger and better things. I guess bigger and different things. He put out a list that's kind of jarring of quarterbacks in the last 10 years or so who've been on the rookie scale contract that have made the Super Bowl. And that list is Patrick Mahomes twice. Okay, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson again, Joe Flacco, and Colin Kaepernick. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 7 quarterbacks in the last 9 years that have made this. Is that right?
I didn't think that the rookie scale thing kicked in until 2011.
So this is from 2012 on.
Yeah, I mean, but Joe Flacco was already in the league, so he was on a different kind of rookie scale. It wasn't the one that we're used to. I guess that's
true. Yeah, technically, I guess you're right with that. But he hadn't gotten his second contract yet.
Right.
I remember he bet on himself and then ended up making $100 million.
He signed one of the biggest, most lucrative deals at the time, which was preposterous. And the whole "is Joe Flacco elite" conversation began. And he signs the big deal with the guaranteed money. He goes to McDonald's to celebrate it like Joe Flacco would. Yeah, for sure. I mean, but when you think of like in the sense now, when we look at what the Arizona Cardinals are dealing with Kyler Murray, and a lot of teams are following that blueprint, it is intriguing. You say jarring. If you look at it from the sense like if it was on the shoulders squarely of the quarterback, but when you look at those teams that had that much success, like Russell Wilson, it's not fair. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks were the top defense in the league for 4 to 5 years. I mean, they had the best defense, number 1 overall defense for 4 straight seasons. Russell Wilson comes in. That was a 7-9 group. So that roster was a lot closer when Russell Wilson was drafted in the 3rd round by Pete Carroll and crew. Patrick Mahomes, he was on a playoff team. Like they traded up. They take Patrick Mahomes. He sits a year in Alex Smith. He's kind of their bridge quarterback. They go to the postseason the season before Mahomes even gets a start. And I think as far as the Rams and the Eagles go, both Carson Wentz, who I don't even know, I can't honestly say after watching Carson Wentz's career play out that he would have navigated the postseason as well as Nick Foles did. But, that was a very well-constructed roster that was a top 5 defense. And also, Jared Goff was on a good team with Todd Gurley and Aaron Donald already in place. Tip of the cap to what McVay was able to do with Goff from one year to the next. He improved quite a bit. I think when you look at the rosters that were in place for these guys, it was in a lot better shape than Kyler Murray had coming in 2019.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. Carson Wentz was, to his credit, was the front runner far and away for the MVP before he got hurt. And
sure.
Nick Foles wasn't Nick Foles until he was Nick Foles for the second half of that season in the playoffs. Like, that is one of the biggest anomalies in NFL history.
Yeah,
that Nick Foles was able to do that. That they were able to put up a 50 burger on on New England Patriots defense or whatever it was. There was 100 points scored in that game, I think. It was insane. Like that. Yeah, but that's insane. Like that is, but still, that doesn't negate the fact, and just to pop this up one more time, Russell Wilson also won a playoff game his rookie year against Robert Griffin III. And like it was immediate. And sure, the Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch really helped. But Cam Newton was kind of you know what? If you look at this, like,
listen to what you said. A rookie beat another rookie quarterback that season.
But
and
still, I mean,
one had the top defense and one didn't. And Robert Griffin III's knee exploded in that game, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's just
that story.
yeah, I know, because Bo grew up as a Washington professional football team fan. So is this something that just is pouring salt in the wound, or is it something where it's like it doesn't happen often, so this is not something that should be? Because you're right. I mean, the construct of a team obviously is super important, and you can allude to the old adage that win-loss isn't a QB stat because of that. But a lot of this has to do with the maturation and growth of Kyler Murray. And we've seen, as I've been calling them, oh my God moments, more and more frequently every year, but tying them together down the stretch when you couldn't even clinch a playoff game on your own. I still think that a lot of this falls on Cliff Kingsbury, and it falls on Kyler also. So stop it. I'm not saying it's 100% Cliff Kingsbury, but still, his main job coming in here was to help Kyler Murray grow into a QB1 faster than maybe what we've seen from second one of the season to last second of the season. Yeah. So that's where this is a little bit more troubling for me when you put it into perspective like that. Even though there are some outliers, and Patrick Mahomes is flipping Patrick Mahomes. So it's not totally fair in that regard.
It's not fair, but it is a way that teams can, expedite a rebuild. I mean, that there's no doubt about it. I mean, that's why teams are doing it. That's why they're selling out to try to get these franchise caliber quarterbacks in the first round, and they're controllable for 5 years without having to break the bank. And they can, allocate funds to building the roster that's going to get them there. But, I think that these teams, it's a little unfair, but at the same time, two things can be true. That it's unfair, but at the same token, the Arizona Cardinals haven't capitalized as much as they could have as far as building around Kyler Murray. The way that they went after it was they're going to bring in veteran type players for guaranteed money instead of trying to build the roster for the future with their future franchise quarterback. They're trying to strike now where it's kind of playing like fantasy football, and it's not really the way that you can, build a sustainable winning franchise. And we've seen that, like, where they fall short as far as depth's concerned. So, it's disappointing, but at the same time, it's just like the Arizona Cardinals. If the San Francisco 49ers did not exist in 2018, that's probably a one-win team. I mean, it was a horrible roster, awful. So they've been trying to fix that ever since. It wasn't, the Eagles trading up for Carson Wentz. It wasn't the Rams trading up for Jared Goff. But also, it's like, how would you rather take those guys' career where they popped early and were able to capitalize on their rookie scale contracts, which they ripped up pretty soon afterwards, and then production wise, they're neither one of those quarterbacks are with their franchise any longer.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, all of this is so, because it's happening in such real time. It's like, looking back at it, I remember the conversations that you and I had. It's like, well, you know what? They've got a couple years to figure under Kyler's rookie scale contract, and then seems like the second later, and this is where we're at. Sure, he's still got a year left, but you're always looking forward. Like, if it were me, I would Carson Wentz it and extend him this offseason. Like, I feel like they did that with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, you can't compare the two, but they did that with Deshaun Watson. I think, with Lamar Jackson, it's interesting that he hasn't got, like,
he will.
This is right. Because, because that's the culture there. They have the stability of a good defense, a good run game in Lamar Jackson. He is that city now. When Kyler Murray, we don't know if he's Phoenix yet. Like this isn't like an Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay sore thumb, completely out of the normal realm of, a blue collar quarterback like they had with Brett Favre. But we still don't know if Kyler Murray is Phoenix. We don't know yet. So I'm still thinking that they should extend him. Like, this is ridiculous. Kyler Murray's a top 10 or top 12 quarterback in the league. You don't let those guys walk. So it's ridiculous to think that otherwise. We've gone long. On the other side, Rams or 49ers. One of them will make the Super Bowl. Which is it better? We're not even talking about winning the Super Bowl, as Bo regurgitates stage left. Which would be better for the Cardinals? Which team making the Super Bowl would be better for the Cardinals? We'll talk about that next. Bo, there's something to get excited about, though. Get Upside.
Oh, yeah.
Alex, Clancy, Bo Brack for Get Upside. It's an incredible app. Listen, anyone who buys gas needs to know about this. Our listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app, again, for free at Apple Store or App Store, Google Play, whatever. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive are making $200 or $300, $200, $300 a year in cash back. There's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, etc. Download the free Get Upside app. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Second segment, Locked on Cardinals. Follow him at Bo Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Thank you to everybody who's along the journey with us. It's going to be a really fun offseason. Like, this is the first show, full disclosure, where I'm not thinking about their terrible, turmoil-ridden second half of the season. It's like, you know what? Okay. The line of demarcation has been set. The statute of limitation has been set to look backwards. Now we're looking forwards because you got no other option. So one of the last conversations we'll have is 49ers or Rams. Like, these two teams are built like for the future completely differently. They couldn't be on further sides of the spectrum from each other. San Francisco built for the future. For the Rams are built for the next 15 minutes. Maybe a year and 15 minutes. And their saving grace is that Cooper Kupp is making like $12.5 million a year for the next 2 years. What would benefit the Cardinals more? The 49ers making it again, which would solidify Kyle Shanahan. He's going to be there for another decade. Or the Rams, where it's like, you know what? Get it while it's good now, because you're going to be relegated out of the Premier League soon when you realize you have no draft picks and aging players. Which would be better for the Cardinals?
What would be better for them? Oh, man, probably LA, just because this is what they sold out for this, and it's going to be less insufferable. I think is, LA still trying to build a fan base. Matthew Stafford's wife's having to buy tickets for the game on Sunday in the conference championship game. So I would probably go with LA making the Super Bowl and hopefully losing, to whatever team represents the AFC, probably the Chiefs. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of, you mentioned the Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, he would be around for a while. I mean, he's made it to the NFC game 2 out of the last 3 seasons. But it would force the Niners' hand and maybe delaying developing Trey Lance. Like, would they, because I know they're going to owe Jimmy Garoppolo a ton of money. Would they restructure? Would they consider keeping him around longer? That would be interesting, because the Arizona Cardinals have had a lot of success against Jimmy G. So, if they lose, and they lose, easily in the NFC Championship game, do they just say, okay, let's cut bait on Jimmy? And we're going to move forward at the quarterback position? I think that's probably the smart move for what they're trying to do with Trey Lance and what they gave up for him.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I mean, I was kind of wishy-washy before we actually talked about this. I think as long as Jimmy G stays in San Francisco, that's good for the Cardinals. No, and it's not a knock on him. I think I'm a Jimmy G somewhat truther, like not full Jared Goff, but I'm I'm close, where it's like, you know what? People just don't like people. Is it because he's too good looking? Like, why don't people like him? Yeah, he makes mistakes. Matthew Stafford is beloved and Jimmy Garoppolo isn't. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Jimmy Garoppolo threw a terrible ball. He threw a terrible ball last week. 100%. They got intercepted. He airmailed it. It's not the first time a quarterback's done that. Okay. Like, I don't understand. All he does is win football games. Now, I think what's the stat? He's 9. There's some stupid stat where in playoff games where he doesn't throw a touchdown, he's got this massively win heavy record. So what you want from a game manager is to do exactly what he does. And they're a run first team anyways. So it's like with Jimmy Garoppolo, this is the last year of his deal. Oh no, he has one more year. Yeah. So he has one more year. You want him to be there as long as possible because the turmoil that ensues would be, when do you play Trey? We gave up 2 first-round picks for this dude. When is he going to play? This isn't like drafting a guy in the first round and letting him sit. You know, like this is, they gave a lot of capital away because I didn't think Jimmy was the guy. All Jimmy does is win football games. So I'd rather have that in San Francisco than have the Rams come in, win a Super Bowl, and then, disband. Because you still have the 49ers as powerhouses.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, these are going to be 2 teams that are going to be forces next year, barring injury. But it is interesting too, with Jimmy G and Matthew Stafford, that these guys have been relegated, reined in a little bit. All the money that they spend, as far as their contracts are concerned, but that they're the team that surrounds them, they're not the vocal point. Like, they can make big plays. They certainly can. Like, Jimmy G's made some big time throws. I know he missed one big throw for sure, but he made some big time throws, especially to get them to where they are now. And Matthew Stafford, he's been buffs, but leading up to the playoffs, he was trying to do too much. So once he was able to rely on his team, it's like the Arizona Cardinals go as Kyler Murray goes. The Niners and the Rams can have success even if their quarterbacks play poorly. And the Arizona Cardinals aren't built like that. And that's a big difference. It's like they're relying so much on their franchise quarterback and putting such a weight on his shoulders. That's nearly, those expectations are unfair for Kyler Murray. I mean, the guy's performed, but because his team hasn't had success, because he doesn't have any talent truly around him, I think that's unfair. I mean, he had 37 total touchdowns in his second season. That's pretty incredible.
I mean, this is where we're at. And it's,
I mean, they have more young playmakers than Kyler Murray. I mean, like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and a rookie running back. Like, who does, I mean, Kyler Murray has Rondale Moore, who had 400 yards, and I know he dealt with injuries, but he really was a non-factor after week 2.
Yep. No, I know. I mean, listen, that's the problem. It's Kyler doesn't have a fighting chance because Steve Kem's not doing his job. And this isn't blaming. This is explaining reasons as to why things are happening. Sure, Kyler's performance struggled down the stretch. But when you have to put more on your shoulders, it's going to make you look worse if you can't do it. Like, you're right. Like, Deebo Samuel is top 3 receiver, top 3 for me now. And he's not even, back. It's like, it's like, it's a wide back or whatever he called himself. Like, he's now the ATH. 2014 college football, you do your recruiting, you have the athletes, you have the wide receivers. He's an athlete. It doesn't matter. He's positionless. And he, to me, wide receiver wise, for the future, I'll still give Cooper Kupp, even though Cooper Kupp has never done this before. I mean, I'd put him top 3 or top 4. I put AJ Brown up there, like Devontae Adams, and we'll see what happens with DeAndre Hopkins. But Deebo Samuel is going to get $500 million. Like, they're going to pay. He's going to be a Cardinal. He's going to be a 49er for life, and you're going to have to deal with him for the next 10 years. And the Cardinals don't, you're right. That's Alex Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. Regarding that, there's a laundry list of free agents for this upcoming, offseason that the Cardinals are going to have to determine sign or let walk. There's 2 that, I hate to pin these guys up against each other, but we've seen flashes and we've seen lowlights, and I'm curious to see what both thinks. Christian Kirk or Chase Edmonds. Let him walk or sign him. Got to pick one for either side. Alex Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. BetOnline.ag. BetOnline.ag would like to wish you a happy betting new year as we continue our march through the playoffs and beyond. Man, Super Bowl's so close. This sucks. BetOnline remains the number 1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. Go to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code Locked On. Go to the website or use your mobile device to receive a 50% welcome bonus with promo code locked on your first deposit. Basketball, football, hockey, boxing, UFC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. BetOnline is where you can take advantage of all of it. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay. Follow him at Bob Brack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to hit 2K by the end of January. That would put us, 7 or 8 months. And we're kind of at a loss for words with the following increase. We appreciate everybody who, interacts with us on all of the platforms. If you want to leave a 5-star review, you're welcome to on Apple. We still have a couple Baltimore Ravens fans. They were unhappy with me when I was calling out Lamar Jackson, a couple 1-star reviews. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm jaded, whatever. They're Ravens fans. So, we'd appreciate it. Okay, Christian Kirk or Chase Edmonds. Christian Kirk has shown he's had some oh my God moments too. Very few and far between, but they come in clusters, which makes it a little bit more frustrating. And Chase Edmonds shows that, one of your favorite stats this year is his yards per carry, yards per touch. Was towards the top of the NFL when he played. And I think he and James Conner, we hadn't seen both of them healthy on the same field since week 1 or week 2. Like James Conner wasn't himself down the stretch, in the playoff game. He was probably at 70%. Keep one, let one walk.
Yeah. It's tough because they both have, their moments. They've had their moments. As you mentioned, the stat was Chase Edmonds actually led all running backs as far as yards per carry in the fourth quarter. He was an asset to the Arizona Cardinals when they were trying to salt away games. And then Christian Kirk had to step up, and he had to at times play wide receiver too. Maybe even with DeAndre Hopkins out, he had to be their top target. And that's where he's fallen short historically in his career. When too much is put on his plate, he hasn't stepped up. But if you look at Christian Kirk as potentially being a wide receiver 3, and if that's what his market could be, and you could bring him back at that price tag, I think he's worth it. Did you know that the Cardinals have been a top 10 rushing team every single season under Cliff Kingsbury? And Chase Edmonds is a big reason for that. I think he fits their system as far as what you're trying to do is run that zone run scheme, getting on the outside. It makes it tough because I think the rapport with Chase Edmonds and Kyler Murray is even stronger than it is with Christian Kirk. Because I thought when we were going to do this exercise is going to be James Conner or Chase Edmonds. But if it's these two guys, I think I'd take Chase Edmonds, but with the idea that the Arizona Cardinals are going to get another top receiver somewhere along the line, whether it's through free agency or whether it's through the draft, because it's not Christian Kirk. We know that much. Like if you're expecting him to be, you're wrong. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard season. He had 17 games to get there this season. He didn't do it. You need 2 big threats in the receiving game. You need to have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. You need to have George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Every team has it, and those guys have to approach 1,000 yards. If if Christian Kirk's the guy that's getting everything else, he's really good at that, but he's not your key cog, and I don't think he's going to be worth how much it's going to cost to get him or retain him.
Agreed. And because you're in the golden age for the employers for signing running backs. Like if you were to say that Chase Edmonds would be offered what Kenyon Drake was offered, I think he got 14.5 million.
Yeah.
14.5 guaranteed, I believe, or 10.5 guaranteed. I think it was 14 guaranteed. It was something over 10 for 2 years. Christian Kirk ain't going to stay for that, but I think Chase Edmonds might. Now, I don't know here's the thing. It's like there's going to, the salary cap is ballooning. The Cardinals have a lot of big hits. We know that. J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, etc. There's going to hopefully be some restructuring that happens. We know Steve Keim's history with restructuring. We see Tyrann Mathieu all over the place on Twitter from time to time talking about how the Cardinals tried to restructure with him after they paid him. I think, and to be fair, I think that not to be fair. I think the opposite of that. They offered him too much money guaranteed. I think they gave him 35 something guaranteed. They gave him so much money guaranteed. That's not Tyrann Mathieu's fault. Mm-hmm. You're going to sign that on the dotted line. But Steve Keim realizing, oh no, we gave him too much. I don't have anything to sign anybody else. I'm an egomaniac and I'm just going to sign everybody Jerry Jones style to a lot of money because I want to prove to everybody that I was right.
Mm-hmm.
They need to figure out a better way moving forward.
Yeah.
So I would pick Chase Edmonds. I think that you could potentially get James Conner and Chase Edmonds for the amount that you'd be giving Christian Kirk. That would be I think James Conner 100% needs to come back. I also think at this point, Chase Edmonds 100% needs to come back. I wasn't always like that, but I feel like in a 2 running back system, like we're seeing across the NFL, if you need that as the pulse, you bring them both back. And if you have to spend $25 million guaranteed combined, you just do it. It's still less than you gave David Johnson.
I just think that the running back market is going to unfortunately not be as conducive to Chase Edmonds and James Conner as it is going to be friendly at the wide receiver market for Christian Kirk. And I think a lot of people are going to be naive or egotistical enough to believe that they can make Christian Kirk, he's just not, that we know him not to be. And that's something more than a fringe wide receiver too. We'll see. Arizona Cardinals are going to get 3 compensatory picks. I was reading that Revenge of the Birds via Over the Cap. Patrick Peterson and AJ Green will nix each other apparently, so they get 3, maybe a 4th, but they're going to get 2 extra 7th and a 6th rounder. I mean, that if they don't take a flyer on a running back in the 6th round at this point, I'm going to be very upset. You can find starting caliber players at that position that late.
That's the 49ers. That's the 49ers where they got Elijah Mitchell.
And it's like so many different players that have been through those doors. And even Seattle has had success doing that. They haven't had so much success except for at the end of Penny's, probably Seattle Seahawks career, but they've found some guys late in the draft. But my point is, like, if they do keep Conner and Edmonds, it's like off injured this year. And James Conner's injury history, it's if you don't believe in it, I don't know what to tell you. You have to bring in somebody with fresh legs this year because both those guys are right at that age to where production drops off, and you got to have some fresh legs. And for whatever reason, I know there's the big contingent of Eno Benjamin fans out there. The team just, I don't know. The team just doesn't believe in them. I don't know. So if they can bring somebody that they believe in and they're actually going to give some carries to, get them.
Yeah. See, we kept harping on the fact like Chase Edmonds going out added more stress on James Conner. And again, right when the ecosystem shifts, everything it doesn't work. James Conner, they rode James Conner through the middle of the season and he gets injured. Before, when it was 50-50 for the handful of games we saw them both, everything was fine. And I know that there are rigors to go throughout the season. Who's to say that they both wouldn't have stayed healthy if it was 50-50 splits? We don't know. But there is injury concerns with all running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All running backs, especially those, get Arian fostered. Look what happened to Christian McCaffrey. Derrick Henry, I know he came back and I know he played like gangbusters. I'll tell you what, now it's something to monitor. They need to figure out an offense in Tennessee that doesn't mean giving him the ball 30 times a game because it ain't going to work anymore. Not everybody's Adrian Peterson who can come back from an ACL injury in 6 months. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. So I don't know if it's necessarily bring somebody in with fresh legs. Maybe you draft somebody, sure. But I think if you can really have a pitch count for both of them and stick to it throughout the season, they can coexist happily. And I think this offense would flourish because of it. Obviously we'll see.
Look at the Niners. They had no intention for Elijah Mitchell to be their guy. Think about what they started with. It was Raheem Mostert and your boy from Ohio State. Those were going to be their 2 key
Trey
cogs.
Sermon.
But they still took a guy in the 6th round. And anybody, he's athletic. He can do a lot as far as the run game goes. He's fast. He's strong. I think that what's the downside? Why do that instead of taking a safety or a corner or offensive lineman that you haven't been able to pin one that's played any important snaps for you under Steve Keim? So and also one thing to look out for if on our conversation Wednesday is, if you're on the fence about VJ leaving, if he takes the job in Miami, the Arizona Cardinals, after a new rule was imposed by the NFL for hiring minority coaches, they could get another 3rd round pick.
Mm-hmm. Or 2.
Yeah,
I think they might get 2 third round picks.
Next. Yeah, this year and next. And if they could hire and a guy like Wink Martindale or Vic Fangio, I think that's a win.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and again, and we'll put in a button that this isn't Locked On 49ers. You can check out Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker for that. The amount of running backs that they have because everybody gets injured, it shows that the scheme is right. Like JaMychal Hasty, Jeff Wilson Jr., these are all fantasy football darlings at one point of the season or another.
Dude,
and
it's Mike Shanahan's scheme. Remember Denver? They would have a new running back every year after Terrell Davis. That
Mike Anderson, baby.
Yeah. Orlandis Gary, guys that pop.
Jesus.
Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis. Alex Clancy, Bo Brack, Locked On Cardinals. I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore today. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.